It seems like every year a new pitch becomes trendy. Recently, we've had sweepers, sinkers, and high rising fastballs in the spotlight. But one pitch might just be flying under the radar, not because it lacks effectiveness, but because we really don't understand how to properly evaluate it. This presentation makes the case that split finger fastballs, in particular low spin splitters, less than 1,000 or so rotations per minute, are among the most misunderstood and undervalued pitches in baseball today. So the splitter's been around forever. You could trace its roots all the way back to the dead ball era when pitchers were frequently throwing split fingers and forkballs, a variation of the pitch with a similar grip but buried slightly deeper in the hand and thrown with even less spin. After falling out of favor, it was Roger Craig in the late 70s and 80s who brought it back, teaching it to guys like Jack Morris and Mike Scott, who then made a living out of it. Fast forward to today, we are seeing the splitter make another comeback, as splitter usage has spiked to 3.7% league-wide thus far in 2025. Now, part of that is because of the influx of Japanese arms, guys like Yoshinobu Yamamoto, Roki Sasaki, and Shota Imanaga, where the splitter is practically standard issue. But there's another reason, too. Teams are finally starting to understand the real value of this pitch. Metrics like Match Plus are just starting to scratch the surface, revealing what traditional models might have missed for years. The results are clear. The run value of the pitch is off the charts in 2025. Now look, the splitter is not easy to throw. It's finicky, but for many pitchers it's actually intuitive, because you kind of throw it just like a fastball. Same arm speed, just a split finger grip, and you let it rip and tumble from there. So why is the pitch's value so hard to quantify? Well, that's where we're going to head next, but first we need to understand a little bit about the physics behind the pitch.
The epitome of a low spin pitch is, of course, the knuckleball. Knuckleballs spin only once or twice on the way to the plate, which translates to anywhere between 250 and 450 RPM. These balls dash and dive and are so erratic in their motion that they can be very hard to catch, let alone hit. A knuckleball is difficult to hit since the ball tends to change direction in flight as a result of the fluctuating aerodynamic side force on the ball. That force varies with the angle and location of the seam. The same thing happens with a rapidly spinning ball, but if the side force varies rapidly from positive to negative many times during the flight, the average effect is zero. With a knuckleball, the side force might vary in sign only once or twice on the way to the batter, leading to high variance in movement depending on the way the ball is spinning. While not as extreme, low spin splitters can have this knuckling effect as well. This makes the pitch hard to square up, even if you recognize splitter spin. So now that we've described how a low spin splitter works, let's talk about how models like Stuff Plus might be missing part of the picture. Stuff Plus is built to evaluate pitches individually. It looks at the ingredients, velocity, spin rate, movement, vertical break, and for a lot of pitch types, it does a really solid job. But the splitter is different. It's not designed to be consistent. In fact, its inconsistency, the wobble, the tumble, the slight variation from pitch to pitch, that's the point. Since Stuff Plus is trained on run value, it will capture that the pitch is performing well. But to truly understand the full picture and possibility for greater value, we must dig deeper. Match Plus is a metric designed to evaluate the depth and deception of a pitcher's arsenal. In short, it rewards pitchers for what's known as tunneling, making different pitches look the same for as long as possible out of the hand. It uses something called kernel density estimation, or KDE, to estimate pitch trajectories and calculate the entropy, or the level of surprise, created by a pair of pitches at decision point. The idea is simple. If two pitches have similar trajectories, it becomes harder for hitters to tell them apart. That uncertainty, that's entropy, and Match Plus loves that. So what makes for a good Match Plus score? Well, in-between pitches, like cutters and gyro sliders, tend to grade out well, as they frequently end up in the middle of a pitcher's movement plot. But here's the kicker. Low spin splitters might be the best pitch for tunneling. Why? Because they vary a lot. Their path or trajectory can change on every single throw, and when that happens, it becomes way harder for a hitter to recognize it. Also, it makes it that much harder to recognize other pitches like the four-seamer, because the splitter's trajectory estimate may overlap with the other pitch's trajectory estimates near decision point, but unlike cutters, disappear far away by contact point. In 2024, Driveline debuted Match Plus at Sabre Seminar, and sure enough, guys like Logan Gilbert, Justin Martinez, and Fernando Cruz, all with low spin splitters, were near the top of the leaderboard. That backs up exactly what we've been saying. The splitter thrives because of its variance, not in spite of it.
But even Match Plus doesn't capture everything beneficial about the splitter. One of the biggest advantages of low spin splitters is what's called pitch decay, or how much worse a pitch performs when a hitter sees it over and over again throughout a game. For most pitches, decay is real. You throw a guy the same pitch 3 times in a row, and naturally he adjusts. But one difference between low spin splitters and, say, high spin sweepers is despite both generating really high whiff rates, the whiff rates decay at a much slower rate for low spin splitters. In fact, low spin splitters have the lowest rate of decay among all pitches and spin buckets in 2024, as you can see in the graphic. This means that guys who throw low spin splitters are more likely to sustain success deeper into games than guys who don't. A great example of pitch decay in action is Ronel Blanco and his slider. In 2023, Blanco threw his slider nearly half the time at 49% usage, and it held up pretty well. It posted a positive 4 run value, making it the best pitch in his arsenal. But in 2024, something changed. The Astros actually cut his slider usage down to 30%, and the pitch got even better. It jumped to a positive 17 run value, which is a massive leap. Even more telling, his expected FIP the second time through the order dropped a full run from 5.28 to 4.28 from 2023 to 2024. The takeaway here is that even though the slider was his best weapon, he had to scale it back to keep it effective. The more hitters saw it, the more it decayed. But now, with the splitter, especially the low spin kind, that decay just doesn't happen as much because of its variance. This enables guys like Fernando Cruz to increase his splitter usage from 42% to 59% of the time and still have a 57.7% whiff rate on it in 2025. Try doing that with another pitch and it just won't work. Recently, we've seen pitchers have to decrease their usage on their best pitches in order to avoid batter familiarity undercutting the individual value of the pitch. But with low spin splitters, you just don't need to do this. Being able to throw your best pitch over and over again with minimal penalty is a massive advantage on the mound, and it's another thing that makes the splitter so valuable. So, to wrap up, splitters, especially low spin splitters, aren't just nasty pitches with high whiff rates, but they tunnel beautifully, resist pitch decay, and remain effective even with heavy usage. If you're looking for splitter guys to watch for the rest of the 2025 season, Zach Littell and AJ Smith-Shawver might be names to keep up with. We've already seen their usage of the pitch spike, and as teams begin to catch on to the underlying value of the splitter, this trend will only continue. And the reason for this is because at the end of the day, it's not just about movement. It's about unpredictability. And in a league full of hitters trained to recognize spin and break, just maybe the most dangerous pitch is actually the one that refuses to behave.